Hello, everybody. This is Audra Santa with DWF Live. Very excited to have you join us on Tuesday, April 20th. We are going to be speaking today with Mimi Obonswin. So I'm just going to wait a few moments as people tune in and we start to see those numbers go up as you join us. If you're tuning in, please let us know where you're watching. I know that there's people all across Canada that have been watching the DWF Live interviews with these amazing Indigenous artists, elders, teachers, leaders, and we have been learning so much in this time together. In Ontario here, Mimi and I are now a little further away. We used to be both in Toronto, but she's going to be sharing with you about where she is. But you'll notice my background's different because I actually moved house recently, and so did Mimi. So we get to share today about gardening, about seeds, and how seeds are like songwriting. Mimi is going to be playing some music for us, and we're going to be really enjoying our time together as we start talking about connection, music, identity, language, and she may even sing a couple of songs en français if we're lucky. So before that, though, for those of you that are tuning in from Legacy Schools, just want to remind you that the Legacy Schools poster contest is going to be wrapping up very soon. The deadline is May 11th to get in your poster entries. And we're also launching a special song challenge this week in our newsletter. So keep an eye on the newsletter. And if you don't already get our newsletters, go to downiewenjack.ca to sign up. For those who want to join us for the special song challenge at Legacy Schools, you're going to sing Gord Downey's I Will Not Be Struck. And we're going to create a really amazing video of schools all across Canada also singing with some very famous musicians. And the final video will be released during Secret Path Week. So keep an eye on the newsletter for details on that. And if you have a poster contest entry, get it in. But first, we'd love to bring up Mimi Obonswin. So if you know Mimi or you know her music at all, you know that she is all about connection and embracing the grace and the power of Northern Ontario landscapes. You can feel that in her music. She epitomizes the powerful scenery and the beauty of its waters through her music, all the while yielding to her rich and warm French Canadian and Abenaki roots. Her musical creations flow through a center of love with the intention to give back and spread awareness. So Mimi released a new EP that was in French called Elle Danse, and she'll be playing a song from that for us today and also telling us about where she recorded it. We should also know that she was awarded Best Pop Record at Indigenous Music Awards, has been nominated for some Francophone Music Awards as well. And although she'd normally be touring around the country, she has actually been doing a whole lot of workshops and live performances. So we're very excited to have Mimi join us today.
Hello,
Hi.
bonjour. I'm so happy to be here.
We're so happy to have you. Where are you exactly, Mimi? Because you and I both moved recently.
Yeah. It seems to be the theme of the year, I think. So I'm here on Algonquin territory, which is also known as Bunchad Valley. So I've moved to Eastern Ontario. And it's kind of interesting because I'm from Northeastern Ontario, lived in Toronto and Southern Ontario. Now I'm in the East. I'm just doing a full circle.
Making it all the way around, and now you've just found a completely different home. You used to live in a church. I remember the first time seeing you perform online last year, and it was during the first lockdowns and quarantine, and you had this beautiful background of a church, and I thought, how did she get in there? And it was actually your home.
Yeah. So my partner's aunt owned a church and we rented it for 2 years, which was so amazing to live there. We recorded tons of music there. I did tons of art, and it was just a really kind of surreal experience to be living there. And then we decided to move, and we looked for a church for a long time. You know, we wanted to find our own church, and we ended up finding a almost 200-year-old log home in the middle of the forest. So I wasn't, sad to leave the church. It was beautiful, but at least I found something that's equally as beautiful in my eyes.
Well, and everything has its season, right? And you've been really connecting to the seasons, especially as you've been connecting to the land there, which I know we'll be talking more about shortly too. So, where are you exactly, and what? Describe a bit more. You said it's north of Ottawa.
So it's actually west of Ottawa, about
Pardon me.
2 hours, and it's So we're just tucked away, very isolated, which feels really good, especially during these times. But also, it kind of feels like I'm returning to my roots because in Northern Ontario, I grew up, in the bush, and now I find myself there again. Although the landscape is a little different, the trees are much bigger here. I do see a lot of plants that I grew up around. And I felt like that was a big part of me that was missing when I lived in Toronto and Port Hope. So it's kind of like a returning home in a way, and it feels so good.
That's so lovely. And have you been songwriting a lot since arriving?
Yeah, I mean it's interesting because we set up a studio and we actually converted one of the barns in our property into like a bit of a craft art and music studio. So we've been busy kind of building, but because songwriting is something that it's not always intentional. I don't always like to sit down to write a song. Sometimes I'll be, like yesterday, shoveling a pile of manure and I'm just singing along with the birds. And it's like, this is a really interesting time to be kind of creating
Really?
music.
What could be more inspiring than a pile of manure? I mean,
Yeah.
there's certainly metaphors in that. I think we're all shoveling some manure and we like learn how to make the best of it and learn how to get creative and sing your
Yeah.
songs.
Oh, you know what? I love that. That's beautiful. And we actually the beauty of composted manure.
Right. And Brady, as Brady said, organic, if you will. Really
Yeah.
organic. That's an organic way of songwriting. Yeah.
Totally. You know what? My whole journey into music and songwriting has really been inspired by being outside with the birds and just being out on the land. So for me, it's totally natural to just be outside doing something and kind of working on something, melody or words or something like there's always something percolating when I'm outside, I feel like.
Mm. Are you one of those people who sings about what she's doing?
I feel like I probably was when I was younger. I'm sure I drove my family crazy making songs. You know what? I'm still like that. When I do dishes, I always sing about the dishes. And it's just one of those things. It's just you kind of let it flow, and when you feel happy or you feel sad, I don't know. For me, singing about it and just kind of like feeling it and letting music flow through is very healing. So, yeah, I probably drive people crazy, but it feels good.
Well, not here, not driving us crazy. I think it's delightful. And so as a child, so you talked about, I mean, you were singing before you could even talk, right? So how did
Yeah.
that evolve into where you are now?
You know what? I'm francophone and I'm Abenaki, so as you can imagine, I have a ginormous family. I have like bajillions of cousins. So I've always put on concerts for my aunties and uncles and cousins and all that. I've always been performing. And even before I could speak, my parents told me I was always kind of singing songs and grabbing microphones or grabbing guitars and stuff like that. So when people ask me, when did you start singing? It's kind of a strange question because I can't pinpoint a moment. I just, I think I came into this world with this gift, and I'm really grateful for it. And I'm so grateful that I get to do this as my life journey, as my career as well. And I can definitely attribute that to my super supportive family, my super supportive community, and just kind of being able to see that in me and to nurture it and to allow it to blossom. So I have so much love in my heart for everybody around me. I really do.
Well, we are so grateful to have you here to share your gift with us today. So I'm going to pull myself off screen and give you an opportunity to play a song for us.
Sure, yeah. Oh, that's a great idea. Which one should I play? So we talked, well, you talked in the intro about this new French album that we just put out in October. So maybe I'll start by playing one of those songs. And if I can just talk a little bit about where the song comes from. So, not last summer, but the summer before, I was working as a music faculty at IMC, which is a music camp that I attended when I was younger. And now returning as a music faculty was like mind blowing. And I was on a boat ride with some friends, and one of our friends said, life sometimes is like a tug of war. You have to appreciate people on your side. So right then and there, when you hang out with songwriters, you have to be careful what you say because everything might come a song. So that was one of those moments. Right away the light went off and I went into my cabin and I wrote the song, but I was surprised that it came out in French. So for those who are here with us today who don't speak French, that's the gist of the song: is life is like a tug of war and you have to appreciate people on your side. So voici ma chanson Tug of War. Je veux apprendre, je veux comprendre d'où je viens, où je vais me rendre. Je veux remplir mon temps avec des choses intéressantes, avec ceux que j'aime et ceux qui me réconfortent. Tug of war, y a des choses qui tirent à l'autre bord. Faut prendre le temps d'apprécier toutes les choses qui tirent à ton côté. Tu peux t'aimer avec un cœur qui aime fort, te raciner avec tes pieds dans le sol. La vie, c'est comme un tug of war. J'ai plein de questions avec aucune réponse. Ça vient et ça pose, ça change de direction. Y a des choses qui tirent à l'autre bord. Faut prendre le temps d'apprécier toutes les choses qui tirent à ton côté. Tu peux t'aimer avec un cœur qui aime fort, te raciner avec tes pieds dans le sol. La vie, c'est comme un tug of war. 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 La vie, c'est comme un tug of war.
Yeah.
Thank you. My microphone is right there. That's why I was facing that. I'm not trying to ignore anyone. It's my microphone.
I don't know if there's a StreamYard Facebook Live etiquette. I think you can look wherever you like when you play. We can hear you well. You sound absolutely lovely. And
you know what? I also realized I'm wearing these really long earrings that my sister made for me, but I don't usually wear them when I perform because they hit my instruments. And I'm like, oh, it's percussive today.
Yeah, you just have to flick your head with the right rhythm and it'll...
Yeah.
That sounds great.
Thank you.
So that's from Elle Danse. How many songs are on that EP?
So it's 5 songs, and one of them is a reimagined production of a song that's on my first album. It's kind of taken a new shape over these years, so it was time to redo it in a bilingual version. And there's also a instrumental lullaby on that song. So it's kind of
Oh,
a different project, but it was, it was in my heart and it was time to do it. So yeah.
well, some love here. Riley says so beautiful.
Oh, thank
Yeah,
you. Thank
really,
you so
really
much.
is. And yeah, if you're watching, feel free to send love to Mimi. I'll show her the comments. It's it's so interesting doing a francophone album, and it's been received really, really well within both the music community and publicly. And the francophone music scene is kind of its own thing, isn't it? So, what was it
Yeah.
like breaking into that for the first time?
You know what? I didn't really think about that. I didn't really see the francophone music scene as separate or as its own thing. And the more I learn about it, the more I realize that it's a beautiful and resilient community, and I'm happy to be part of it now. But it was kind of this album came about because when I was at the Indigenous Music Awards for Connected, which Thomas Mackay produced, and I know he produced you as well. Hey Tom, if you're watching, we
Hey,
both love
Tom.
you so much.
Look, Tom, it finally happened. 4 years
Yay!
ago, you told me I needed to meet Mimi, and now it's
Yeah.
happening.
What a special human being, seriously.
Truly.
But when we were at the Indigenous Music Awards with that album, it was so amazing, and I can't tell you how it felt to be recognized in the Indigenous music scene in Canada. Like, I just felt like I was finally part of this beautiful community of music makers. So it was really awesome, but there was also a light that went off. And to honor both my Indigenous roots as well as my Francophone roots, I thought it was time to kind of bridge the gap and bring a new project that would, showcase my roots as a Francophone person as well. And throughout my career, my beautiful community in Sudbury has always asked me when are you gonna do a French album? And I was like, it's coming, it's coming. So it was time to do it. And I'm just overwhelmed with love. The way it's being received is just, I could never
Mm.
have imagined that. So yeah, and it's being received in the English music scene. It's kind of, it's not just in the French world. And I think, music and art can do that. It can have a web and tie different communities together. And, we have shared narratives, and language is a way that we communicate, but, there's so much more. So it's really cool. I'm really, really grateful.
Well, it's so amazing. I mean, here there's a few comments here. Rick says, much respect. I'm a
Oh,
Franco-Ontarian. Yeah. And
merci, Rick.
also up here, Brady, the one who made the comment about the organic, the manure, organic way of songwriting, is actually from Pontiac Native community.
Oh,
And
beautiful.
yeah. So hello, Brady. And it's really interesting because with the Gordani and Chani Wenjack Fund, we're trying. We've been around just a few years now, and as we continue to broaden our work and our scope, we're now working on more French translations of our legacy school, and legacy space resources are in French. And in June, we're doing some National Indigenous History Month events like we did last year digitally. And one of the areas we're looking to feature is Quebec. So we are hoping to do some French translation, or at least some subtitles. And as we continue to go, we want to really ensure that we're including French-speaking Indigenous communities, and we're being as inclusive as possible in that way.
Oh, that's beautiful. I'm so happy to hear that. Actually, I think that was one of my first questions when I first connected with Lisa was, do you have any French stuff? Because I know lots of teachers who could use this amazing content that you guys produce. So I did spread the word as much as I could.
Well, I'm just putting in the chat now, legacyschools.ca. If there's any educators out there, you can go to our Legacy Schools website. You can sign up for free. You'll get free resources, a free toolkit, and we can provide that both in English and en français. And actually, we also did our very first French DWF Live a couple months ago with Mimi, or your Mimi, with Alanis of Botswana. And there were some students from a French-speaking school that actually interviewed her because I'm not as fluent as I'd like to be.
That's amazing. She's one of my heroes, and I think a hero for lots of Indigenous women in this country. So, yeah, that must have been awesome. I wish I could have asked her questions myself.
Oh, yeah. Is there any relation at all?
Yeah, we're both from Odanak, and it's a really small community. So I've actually got to meet her once or twice at our powwow, and I was very starstruck. And she's just such a trailblazer for us Abenaki girls. There's so many of us that just, she just made a path for us. So yeah, she's a really special and very talented person. I love the work that she does.
Mm. And if anyone wants to catch that interview, you can go back on the DWF Live YouTube or Facebook videos, and you can find that one in there too. It's definitely worth a watch. And we're so grateful to be speaking to another Obonsuin about all the magic that you're creating and the path that you are forging for yourself and for other people in your community too that get to watch that. So yeah, it's so exciting.
Thanks.
Another person you talked about when we were talking about being a little starstruck, you used that word in the pre-interview, and you spoke also of another one of our artist ambassadors, which is Joe Pitawanakwet of Creator's Garden, because you were talking about how you've been getting more into the ground and into the, working with the earth, especially since you've moved. So would you like to tell me a bit more about that?
Yeah. So I grew up, you know, under ferns and playing with plants and in the bush, and I always understood that there was a relationship there. And in the past couple of years I've gotten to explore herbal medicines and all the amazing bush medicine we have around us, and even edible food that we can find in our yard. So I've been really diving into foraging for tea and for food. In fact, I made my husband make me stinging nettle stir fry the other day. But yeah, I was completely starstruck when I sent him a message. I was like, I love your work, and I love his content and the space that he's creating as a indigenous person. Kind of offering this knowledge to people who want to connect with the land. It's changed my world. And when you're foraging and when you're learning about the plants that grow around you, I think you learn a lot about yourself and the role that you play in this interconnected system of things that are spiraling around us. And I think there's something really healing about that. And it's something that I you know people ask me questions about stuff. I'm like, I'm still learning too. Everybody's always learning, but it's really special to just be able to go outside and understand and know who's around you and what medicines they offer. It's really cool.
Oh, well, I'm so very excited to plan to get an art garden out here as well. And you're sending me some seeds, so I'm even more thrilled about that.
I'm so excited. You know what? These past couple months, sharing seeds and joining gardening groups on Facebook and stuff has really made me feel like I'm connected to another community. So I'm so excited to send some
It
seeds to
is. And it is. It's like there's a spreading the love, right? Because then whatever I grow, when that goes to seed, I'm able to share those seeds as well. And
you. Totally.
you also even mentioned how seeds are a bit like songwriting, how it's like growing
Yeah.
plants, planting seeds. It's very similar.
Yeah, yeah. Because last year we didn't get to tour. So in 2019 we played 92 concerts.
Mm.
And last year, in the matter of a week, I had about 5 months of touring across Canada canceled. So I ended up growing my first garden. Although I had been gardening my whole life with my parents and my family, my grandparents. My grandparents were like these crazy gardeners. They were so amazing. Um, so I decided to, kind of dive in. I've always grown plants, but to have a proper garden. And, as I'm planting seeds and nurturing them and literally watching them grow, I felt like it was very similar to songwriting in a way because, you have the seed that's planted of a song or a melody, and then you nurture it. You give it love, you give it life, and it blossoms into a song. And from there, it continues to grow. It gathers stories. So when you're on the road, you meet people who relate to your songs and
Yeah.
all these things. So you spread the seeds in the wind, just like plants do. So I'm the kind of person who always needs to stay busy. My partner's like, why don't you just chill? I'm like, I don't chill. Um, so if I'm not working on music, I love to spend time in the garden or continue to feel creative. And for me, gardening and foraging and all these things are creative, they kind of exercise the same muscles. So I just love the dynamics and the bridge between, you know, seedlings and songs.
Mm. Well, I'd love you to share another one of your seedlings with us, if you would.
Yeah, you know what? That makes me think of oh, this song is in the exact same key as the other song, but that's okay.
No
So
one would
this
know unless you tell us. Little behind the scenes look right there.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? It's fun to play my songs you know, acoustically sometimes because that's how they come into the world.
Yeah.
And when I get to play my songs just with my guitar, it kind of feels like going back to the roots of them. So before my El Dance album, I put out an acoustic album, which took a lot of guts for me to just go in the studio and perform songs live off the floor, no anything. So that EP has 7 songs and it's called Trillium, and it came out a year before, or a year and a half before El Dance. And on that album, there's a song called I Feel So Small. And for anybody who knows me, I am small. I'm only like 5'1". But it it also speaks to what we were talking about when you're out there, you know, under these giant trees. You're so small. We're so small when it comes to the wide land, but we play an important role, just like the butterflies do, or just like every little thing. So that's where this song comes from. It's called I Feel So Small. I'm gonna bring my guitar up a little bit, get cozy. Okay. Trees so tall, rivers so wide, I feel so small under the sky. Birds flying high, clouds drifting by. If the wind is the breath and the earth is alive. The flow of the stream like the blood in my veins. Sweet grass growing wild like a bad hair day. I am nothing but a stone, nothing but a fragment of sand. I feel so small on this generous land. Rolling thunder, pouring rain, perfect sunsets. We witness magic every day. The moon glows bright, and my cousins, the stars, shine their light. And I feel so small in a world full of giants. I am nothing but a gnome, part of it all, 'cause the earth is my home, part of it all, 'cause the earth is my home.
Awesome. So beautiful. Yay!
Thanks.
That's adorable. We actually, you know, there's other, when we talk about musicians sharing music, there's someone here, Rick. He actually said, can you please forward the link I posted to Mimi so she can hear my tribute song to Gord, Chani, and the Secret Path? I absolutely will. And for anybody else in the chat right now on Facebook, you can go up and you can see Rick's link from up there if you want to watch that too. And just, yeah, I love how musicians can share and inspire each other with all that as well.
Yeah, and especially now, we are finding so much healing in music and sharing music, and it's been kind of amazing because usually when you're a musician, you spend a lot of time playing music, but you don't get a lot of time to, go to other people's shows and all that. So this past year and a half, I've gotten to kind of dive into some of my peers to watch their live shows from their house and all these things because we're all busy playing shows. So it's been really magical being able to watch and share and all that.
Mm. What do you find? So for me, I know even though I'm a musician, sometimes I have to remind myself to play music, or even just to have it playing in the house. Is there anything you do that really helps to help you feel inspired or get in the flow to write, or any advice you might offer to anyone here who wants to connect or create something?
Yeah, that's great. It's in the workshops that I do with young people, I talk a lot about different things that we can do, and it's kind of a nice reminder for myself too. I'm the kind of person who has a hard time listening to music all the time because my brain goes right into it. So if I'm listening to music, I like to like actively listen, sit down, and pay attention. So that's one thing that I love to do. But the thing that I recommend the most in my workshops with young people is what I like to call like free form writing. I think some people call it morning pages
Yes.
or intuitive writing and all these things. So I travel everywhere with a notebook. And whenever I feel overwhelmed or I have like, writer's block or anxiety or all these things that I call brain fog happening, I like to do this activity where you put a timer for between 3 and 5 minutes, and you just kind of let it all out. So you just write the thoughts as they come into your mind. You just write them out. And the more you do it, you'll be surprised that the stuff that you're writing can sometimes, be a start off point for a song or a poem or something like that. The more you do it, the more comfortable you are, and the more your becomes like beautiful content. So it's a really good activity that I recommend for young people who feel anxious and stuff. But as artists as well, before you start a project or if you want to start a clean slate or a blank canvas, it's a good way to kind of let go of the outside world, see where you're at, check in with yourself, and maybe be inspired by what you put down.
Oh, love that. I remember the first time I started doing morning pages was in 2014. And the thing that I found about this practice was I got very surprised by what came out. So I'm normally a happy person. I present as a happy person. The first like 2 weeks, I did it every morning. I wrote 3 pages every morning. 2 weeks was just like angry, angry. And I was like, what's kind of going on? And suddenly it was like I turned on a creative tap and song lyrics came and I was happier and I was doing the dishes more, which was a very strange side effect. But it was almost like all this anxiety or worry or anger or energy inside had a place to go. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think it was a really great exercise. So thanks for reminding. I'm glad
Oh.
to hear about that again. It's reminded me.
Oh, I'm glad that it worked like that for you. And I think that's the magic of it. And, especially these days, oh, my French accent slipped up in there.
Oh, I like it.
These days, especially these days when we have so much going on and so much sometimes anger or frustration, I think those emotions are just as valuable, especially as creative people. And we can always, use art, whether it's music or visual arts or gardening and all these things, as an expression for those emotions instead of holding on to them. And yeah, morning pages or free form writing is a super fun way to kind of get those creative muscles going. That's what I like to think.
Absolutely. So if you do that, do let us know. Let Mimi and I know if you give that a try. If you're a legacy school student or your classroom that does that, it'd be great to see what comes out too. So that's exciting.
Totally.
Great. So tell me what you're working on now or what your hopes are with music over the next year or so. I know you're not touring, you're not playing a whole lot, but you are doing some live shows, you're doing workshops, and do you have some
Yeah.
like plans for the future that we can follow you on?
Yeah, of course. I think, watching all the people in the music community and the art community, I'm just so inspired by how resilient artists are. And
Mm,
given all the challenges that we were given this past, I'm gonna say 2 years, but I know it's been a little less than that. We've had to, reinvent ourselves and find new ways of continuing to make our art and sustain ourselves. So this past year and a half, I've been doing tons of workshops in schools and with organizations like Arts Can Circle and Dare Arts, which I love doing. Um, and we also have a studio in our home. So we just wrapped up recording a instrumental album. So I started doing instrumental music for this catalog called Nagamo, which is in Toronto, and it's an Indigenous publishing house, and they house amazing music. So they kind of took us on, and we composed music for them, and it totally inspired me to create songs in a way that tell stories without words. So we put together an instrumental album that we're just polishing off, and we're going to be releasing soon. And we also started recording an English album, and I'm going to have to put out some more French stuff too. So the studio is really, really busy, and we can't play music live, but we can still play music here and share virtually with my bandmates. So they also have studios. I think a lot of musicians kind of amped up their gear and got studios going in their homes. So it's really cool to still be able to work with my bandmates in Toronto and send each other stuff back and forth and continue to create even in a virtual place. So I'm excited about that. And just to kind of, we were talking earlier about how gigs are getting canceled. You book a gig and then it gets canceled, and you book another gig and it gets canceled. And when it first happened, it breaks your heart. And it's been a challenge, but I'm starting to accept the uncertainty of things. So, when a gig gets canceled, it's just everybody's going through it. We're all working our way through these times, and things will come back as they come. So to kind of accept the uncertainty and just be prepared for when we get to play music again
Yeah.
in a real space. So lots of stuff trying to stay busy and happy and positive and continuing to create. That's kind of all we can do over here.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's wisdom for anybody, musician or anyone. It's like learning how to hold on to things lightly and learning how to roll with the changes, because sometimes we're told of different things, like in terms of, even with the stay-at-home orders or lockdowns that we're having in Ontario, it's like things change day to day. And it's really hard to like make solid plans. So it's just being able to take things one day at a time and to take care of ourselves and each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah. And I think, um, a lot of musicians that I've talked to have been playing their instruments less um, these past couple months because, it's one thing when you have shows lined up, but it's sometimes hard to feel inspired to practice. So I love sitting with my instruments, but I also got into sewing. I love sewing. I love making pom-poms. I love painting. So to all my artist friends who may feel like they're in a rut, just try different art forms and continue to use that creative muscle, but maybe in different avenues that you didn't know you had. It's really fun. It feels good to be able to continue to work on art, even if it's not music.
Mm, absolutely. And even if, it's funny because some people think they go, oh, I'm not creative, I'm not an artist, but we all are. And, there's some quotes out there about how we're all artists until we're taught that we're not artists, which happens sometime in childhood. So even whether you're a kid watching or a kid at heart, picking up some music or a paintbrush or anything can really help in these sort of times. Um,
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
We have a lovely comment here from Sean Van Wagner saying, lovely discussion, equally lovely introduction to Mimi. Thank you. So
Oh,
nice
thank
to
you
meet
so
you.
much.
So grateful to have everybody watching today. And, as we're talking about resiliency and strength and getting through these times, I think you have a special song for us to finish us off.
Yeah, yeah. So this is a song from my first album that we redid for the El Dance album because, as I was saying earlier, songs continue to grow and gather, sometimes different stories than when they were born into this world. So this is a song from my first album. It was called Brave, and throughout the years playing it with my bandmates, it became a French and English song. So it's a bilingual song now, and When I first started doing workshops in schools, like my first ever workshop, it was a grade 4 class in Mississauga, I think. And I wasn't really sure what to expect, and I was a little bit nervous. And I walk into the room, and this grade 4 class all kind of huddled in a half circle around me with instruments, and they started performing this song at me in front of me in
Oh,
real life. And I just cried uncontrollably. And then the teacher's like, "You could do the workshop now." And I was like, "Oh." It was so amazing to see these young people who had practiced and felt so confident and so proud that they were singing this song to me.
oh.
So in workshops, I often ask people, how does this make you feel and all those things. So when I started the workshop, I said, okay, when you sing the song Brave, how does it make you feel? And there's a student who stood up right away, and he said something like, every day is a hard day. Everybody makes fun of me. I'm always by myself. But when I sing the song, I can be proud of who I am and I can be brave. And I always think about how we all have that little voice inside of us sometimes, and we all need courage, and we all should feel brave and should feel confident in who we are. So every time I play this song, I think about all those beautiful moments. So voici courage, or brave. Here we go. Be brave with your crazy hair. Be crazy like nobody's there. Be happy. Just be yourself. Don't be afraid. Just be brave. Be brave. Get your hopes up high. Be high. Let everybody wonder why. Why be a bird if you can't fly? Just be brave. When I was just a little girl, I asked the world what I should be. It said, be nice. You'll make someone a lovely wife. When I was just a little older, I asked a cloud what I should be. It said, be like me, be anything you wanna be. Courage, à quoi bon être un oiseau en cage? Faut être un papillon en voyage. La liberté nous appartient. Tiens bon, courage. On me disait très souvent, quand tu grandiras, tu comprendras. Sois sage, ça rappelle comme une image. Et maintenant que j'ai grandi, je vous assure, j'ai tout compris. Sois toi, tu verras que sera. Thank you. Oh, sorry, we can't hear you.
I'm muted. That was just so you can hear me singing along. I muted myself.
Aw, thank
Just I
you.
didn't want to make you cry like that class did. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it happens. It happens a
better if
lot,
you
you know.
or mute my own tears.
Hey,
This,
that's a great. We should write that down.
okay.
That is a great line. Mute
All
my
right.
own tears. I
Mute
like
my
it.
own tears. Oh gosh, this is songwriting in the time of Zoom and StreamYard and all that. But
Yeah,
no, that'd be beautiful. We'll plant some seeds and write some songs one day,
I
Mimi.
love that. I love that.
It has been such a joy to have you on today. Thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing everything that happens and to catching any live stream shows or anything you're doing. And we're very grateful to have you as part of our Artist Ambassador program with the Gord Downie and Chani Wenjack Fund. We have so many incredible artists now. If anyone goes to artistambassador.ca, you can see all these incredible Indigenous and non-Indigenous artists on our website. And having you as part of the DWF live series has been so nice today. Really been a highlight of my week. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's also been a highlight. You know, we needed the medicine of this, and I really, really appreciate the time and the space and all the work that you guys do. So thank you so much for having me today. Uli uni, merci tout le monde. Thank you.
Thank you, Mimi. Wonderful to see you. Thank you. And to everyone, just stay tuned for other DWF live series. If you make sure that you follow our Facebook page and subscribe to our newsletter at downiewenjack.ca. Where's my... This is where you get the blooper reel without us even being over yet. But yes, do tune in for future sessions, sign into our newsletter. And if you are one of the students who has signed up for or wants to enter our poster contest, you have until May 11th to get those in. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful day, everyone, and take care.